Welcome, everybody, to the Building Aaronsburg podcast. I'm Thomas Aaronsburg.
And I'm Catherine Aaronsburg. And today we are talking about finances. We've discussed some finances in the past, but man, those were before stimulus checks started getting handed out. And I started seeing on social media what people were planning to do with their stimulus money.
With their stimulus money that they worked very hard for,
Gave to the
got
government.
taxed, and now the government's giving it back to them.
And they were like, free money. Hey, guess what? It's your money. You're just getting it back. But more importantly, I think Thomas had gone on social media. I say Thomas as if you're not the person sitting across from me, but you went on social media and you asked people would they like to do a finance podcast because, as we know, you teach some finance lessons in your math class to your students. And I have to say that a lot of them are pretty basic and they've gotten lost on a lot of adults at this point.
Yeah.
And now that we have the influence of the stimulus check coming in, people's brains are starting to explode a little bit. So we need to center ourselves back to our basic finance days to maybe make some smart decisions. This episode may be coming out after everyone's already spent it. I don't even know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, everyone should be getting their checks in the next week or two if they haven't already gotten it.
We already got
already
ours.
gotten it. So
we already got ours. You guys, if you guys know how much stimulus checks, these are not numbers that are mysteries to people. We have 4 children and 2 adults. We received $8,400. $8,400 is a life-changing amount of money for a lot of people.
Yep.
A lot of people.
That's a lot of money.
What are we doing with ours, Thomas? Do you want to talk about that first? What we're doing with ours?
I guess let's talk about us because we live such an extravagant lifestyle. We stick all of our money in the bank.
Yeah. That's what we're doing with it, guys. Really boring. Because we know that next year we have private education for our children, which we currently have, but we'll have next year also, to the tune of way more than $8,400.
Yep.
We have other expenses. We have a house to renovate. We've got lots and lots and lots of other things. I have a business that I am trying to possibly fund things in the future. Now, of course, I'm funding those through my business. Anyway, the point being, that money is a tool. Money is a tool.
Yep.
To help you do things. And that's how we view it, as a tool to invest into our future, into our children's future, and all those things. And we just choose to save it and allocate it to those things. So I guess we can get back to what you guys might be.
So let me start here because this was a discussion. Someone asked me this in the hall the other day because I'm sure that they know that we have 4 children and 2 adults.
Are they adding those numbers? Was it an adult or a kid?
It was an adult. And they're like, so what do you guys have planned? Like, aren't you going to spend it immediately?
That's the assumption that you're going to spend it. Because look, in the root of things, a stimulus check, the reason why it's called a stimulus check is that you get it so that you will then spend it to stimulate the economy. Right. As if we're in a low economy. I don't even know why they're calling it a stimulus check. It should be more of like a
handout.
Well, you can call it that too. But it's supposed to be like a personal recovery thing, I think, is really what it is. More than it is an economic stimulus.
Because people have been out of work or whatever and they need help putting food on the table.
And I guess
that's what they make it sound like.
I guess you could say that the economy, of course, has been affected by coronavirus and all that. But, whoo boy, when it comes to my field and a lot of others, anyway, all that being said, that is what stimulus check, the purpose of a stimulus check is for you to spend to stimulate the economy.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
So my answer was, we don't really have any house projects coming up. I mean, not big ones.
I would love to renovate a kitchen. I would love to renovate 3 bathrooms.
$8,000 is not going to do a kitchen.
Right.
It would do a bathroom.
It'd do a couple of bathrooms.
So, I mean, I guess we could do that, but I feel like our bathrooms are not in... like our bathrooms are functional. The sinks work, the toilets work, the showers work.
We also need a new pool liner thing. We don't have a liner pool. We have a gunite pool, but
it needs to be
it has not been
resurfaced.
It has not been replastered since the original day it was plastered.
Right.
So it's like a 30-year-old pool. It's definitely time.
So there's definitely things that we could put the money into, and maybe we will, but we have priorities. And the money's got to go here first, then there first, and there first. And this was not really money we were expecting. And so, because we weren't expecting it, I would say that we don't have any immediate projects planned.
Mm-hmm.
we've talked about this in the previous episode that the way that we do our projects is we save our money over time, and in that time we're planning our next project. And when the plan's ready and the money's there, we execute the
That's when the
plan.
magic happens.
So we weren't expecting the money, so we weren't really making a plan to do. I mean, we've kind of talked about the kitchen, but we're not anywhere near ready to just start ripping stuff out.
Yeah.
That's probably the next thing on our list of.
In the pool. I mean, there's a ton of stuff. I've got the list running constantly in my head. But all that being said, guys, I think we need to go back to this basic thing that Thomas teaches his kids, and his kids, meaning not our kids, his kids at school.
Students.
And how to allocate your budget just like you would with anything else, taking that money and deciding in a smart way what you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
If you are a person who needed that $8,400 that we're getting to survive because you couldn't pay your rent because you didn't have a job, or whatever the case may be, that is where your money should go. You shouldn't be out buying clothing or whatever, things that aren't necessary. It really comes down to having that really honest conversation with yourself about, what do I need?
Yeah.
And what do I want? We've talked about needs and wants before, and we have very little need. There's very little need in our life.
In my finance lessons, that's always the first lesson. The very, very first lesson we talk about is want versus need. Because that's everybody at their age, especially. I really don't think they understand that, because all of their needs are taken care of.
Right, their parents.
A high school kid only ever wants.
Mm-hmm.
At least the ones at my school. Now, I don't teach at a public school. I mean, everyone that comes to our school, for the most part, is probably middle class. We probably have a fair amount of upper middle class and maybe a handful of lower middle class. Maybe even some real low level kids and some very high level. I mean, we were probably the perfect curve, probably, in terms of income. So most of the kids that I teach, all of their needs are taken care of. I mean, even to the point that you're getting a private education.
Sure. That's a nice thing, for sure.
Right. And so we go through this whole list of wants versus needs. The way the lesson ends is it ends with priorities. You need to prioritize how you spend your money, because everybody makes money.
Okay, look.
And how are you going to spend it?
It is. But I think that at least I'm hearing in my head the moms. I'm hearing all you moms right now who are listening to this going, I deserve a new sweater. I deserve a new pot or pan. I've worked my tail off.
Right.
And I've gotten a stimulus check, and I deserve this and this and this. Now, I can tell you that I don't love the term deserve.
Sure.
I think it's really detrimental to think that we deserve anything, honestly. Like, we always used to talk in my mom's prayer group about, if you got what you deserved, you wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
Because really, what do I deserve?
Yes.
So I don't love that. I don't love the idea of what do they call it? Self-care? Self-care? No, not self-care. Is that what they call it? Anyway, the idea that like you're constantly in this feeling like you're behind the ball, like you're working so hard, and I need to, pamper myself in order to survive what's happening. And to some extent that's true. Mental health is super important. Of course, you have to take care of yourself, but I think that we've gone into an extreme of this stuff where it's like, I'm going to spend $200 on my nails, #self-care. It's like, okay, but you make $10,000 a year. $200 on your nails is
sure.
You can also go to Walmart and get yourself some press-on nails and do it at home.
A little pedicure, manicure kit,
which is what I do. And that's self-care also. You're taking time to yourself to make yourself look nice or whatever you want to do. But I think that there's a limit to this thing where people start to use money as a way to show that they're taking care of themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm articulating it very well.
I know what you're saying, though. It's like I'm working my 9 to 5, 5 days a week, making my money. I should use some of that money on myself.
Of course you should. Of course you should. But I just think we have to be careful about, because I think this whole self-care thing has, and what I deserve has been kind of something that other people tell us that we should do, and we start to believe it, which of course is true. Like, you have to take care of yourself.
Sure.
You have to take mental breaks out. You have to do all these things. But I think you have to do it within your own abilities, within your own income and all these things. Look, I think a huge problem that we're having right now with social media and other media in general, newspaper, not newspapers anymore, but all these websites and things like that. We're looking around ourselves, seeing what other people our age are doing, and we think that we should be able to do those things too. And then suddenly we get a stimulus check and we have the ability to maybe get something close.
Right.
And so we make really bad decisions.
Right.
When we get a little money in our pocket. Meanwhile, you already ran up credit cards and doing things you shouldn't have been doing. And instead of taking the stimulus money and paying down some of that debt,
you're just going to go make the problem worse.
We're going to dig ourselves deeper into the hole.
Right.
And so, all of you guys who've been working with Dave Ramsey or any kind of budgeting, debt, trying to get yourself out of that stuff, now is not the time to suddenly go crazy, right? Now is the time to take that money, sit with it for a minute. It's in your bank account. It's just a number, guys. It's just a number sitting in your bank account. And it's sometimes, in some cases, it's a pretty big number. What is it now? Is it $1,600 per
$1,400? I thought.
$1,400, whatever it is. I'm not even sitting here dividing out what 8,400 divided by 6, because that's what we are at our house. But whatever the number is, that number just for one person, that's a lot of money to a lot of people. And so, you can utilize it in some really smart ways, and there's some really dumb, easy ways to whittle it away so fast. So, I just want you guys to, I just wanted to talk about it because I think that I'm seeing all these jokes and memes. What you gonna do with your stimmy check? Everybody's calling it a stimmy check, and they're kind of like,
kind of flippant about it.
Yeah, very flippant about it. And to some people, that's a lot of money. And so they're not doing anything but paying very important bills with their stimmy check.
Right.
And for all those people who are calling it a stimmy check, it probably means that you didn't need it as much as someone else did.
Right.
And so, yes, it's supposed to be there to stimulate the economy, but it's also supposed to be there to help support you in a time where maybe you were having a rough time. So blowing it on a bunch of stuff that isn't all that important is going to put you back into the same hole you were in before you got the stimulus check.
Right.
So you're suddenly going to think you need another stimulus check and another one and another one. Like, you always are going to, if you've started out outspending yourself and your income, you're always going to be someone who outspends your income.
Right.
And so you are being given a gift to stop and go, this could be a big reset for me. This could be a windfall of money that could really set me in the right place if I use it correctly.
Right.
So if you guys have not, I hope you haven't yet. If you've gotten your stimulus check and you haven't spent it yet, if you will just sit with it for a minute and make plans for it and use it as a tool to move forward and to do good in your life and make a big impact. Even if you want to divide it out, talk to somebody about what you should do with it. Somebody who knows about finances, who can say, look, take, out of $1,400, whatever it is, take $200 and do something for yourself if you want to do that. Then the rest of it, put $500 in savings. Then take, $200 and pay off some of your credit card. Whatever the formula is for you. I think everybody has a formula, and you have to figure it out.
You hope everyone has a formula. I'm sure there's some people that are just kind of day by day.
I'm saying you should develop a formula.
Right.
So let that money sit in your account before you touch it and do anything. Pretend like it's not even there. Make a plan for it, and then execute the plan in a smart way so that you are putting your best foot forward and using that money in the best way possible so that you don't get yourself in the same position that you're in again. Because looking around and seeing what other people are doing with their money and stimulus checks is not the first thing to do.
Yeah. That takes a lot of discipline, though. You said something about Dave Ramsey. It made me think of this quote that I also use in my finance classes. He says that personal finance is 80% behavior and 20% knowledge. Like, you don't need to know a bunch about personal finance. You just need to be able to execute these behaviors, not spending more than what you're making and putting a certain amount into savings and paying off your debts, not creating debt. And you don't need to be a genius to know how to do those and not do those things. You just have to have the discipline.
Discipline is always the hardest part for everything. It's the hardest part in, prayer is the hardest part in working out and eating right. It's the hardest part with finances. It's always the hardest part because it always means depriving yourself of something else.
Right. You have to tell yourself no instead of someone else telling you no.
Correct. You
That's
have
the
to be
hardest
the
part
one.
about it.
Yeah, you have to be the one. If you're gonna get up and work out, you have to get up an hour early, which is what you
Right.
do. You have to not eat that candy or that
Yeah.
fried food, or whatever it is, and you have to just constantly tell yourself no, because the payoff is always so far away.
Absolutely.
You know it's
Yes.
there, but you don't really know it's
Right.
there. And
Your
so
scale that you look at is not going to change because you did or did not eat this one cookie.
right.
It's not going to change tomorrow, but at the end of the week, it will have gone up or down based on how many times you chose to eat that cookie or not eat that cookie.
But I can tell you guys the same thing with working out and all these different things. The people who surround you, who are the best with money, they have done this for years and years and years, and it was not easy. It wasn't easy to lose that weight. It wasn't easy to become the elite business owner that person is. It did not, it wasn't easy to become that elite athlete. There's always something that has been given up in
Right.
order to achieve whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if it all comes down to what you really want. We always say, "Oh, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to balance my checkbook. I don't have." It always comes down to what you really want.
Right.
If you really wanted to do those things, you would find time to do it, because we always have more time in our day, which I know we've talked about before.
The other thing too, in this same line of thought, is that no one's going to see that sacrifice that you're making.
Right.
That athlete that puts in all that extra work, no one sees that person in the weight room because they're the only person in the weight room.
Right.
When you're stocking money away into savings because you got your stimulus check and you decided to throw it into savings versus spending it, no one saw you do that.
But everybody see if you got a new handbag.
Right.
Everybody will see if.
So it's kind of these sacrifices that you're making,
but
because you're disciplined, but nobody sees it except for you way down the road.
And I think that that's true of anybody, anybody that you see that succeeded at anything ever, and suddenly you're like, oh, I never heard of that person before. Where'd they come from? They just must have popped out of nowhere.
Right.
Talk to that person.
Yeah.
They didn't just pop out of nowhere. They've been working at that for years and years and years.
Right.
And suddenly you finally have noticed them. They've become in your consciousness because they've worked so hard for so long. I'm getting ready for that day, by the way.
Well, yes.
I'm waiting for that day for me to have it.
I always think of that with musicians. Like, you'll not hear of some certain musician, and then all of a sudden they have like 5 top 40 hits.
Yeah.
And you're like, how on earth? I've never even heard of this guy before.
Yeah.
And here they are. When I'm sure that some of their fans, family, whatever, they've probably been at it for a decade. I'm
dying to watch the Billie Eilish documentary and talk about it on the podcast. I have not seen it yet. It's on Apple, iTunes, whatever, Apple TV, and we don't have that.
Right.
And so I'm dying to see it, but I've heard reviews about it, and it's essentially the same thing. Her and her brother sat in her bedroom and made music.
She's young though.
She's young,
like 20-ish.
She's young, but her brother, I think, was the music person behind it, and she was the singer, and they succeeded together. And she happened to be of course, they made a documentary about it, but they're literally showing video, from what I understand, in her room. Like, this documentarian came in and was showing this. So she was kind of on her way up then, but none of us knew who Billie Eilish was until she hit, like, she's basically having duo or featuring Justin Bieber. Like, you don't just snap into Justin Bieber being a feature on your song. Like, you've been around a while, and none of us have ever heard of you before. Of course, the diehard fans are like, I've been knowing who Billie Eilish is for the last 10 years. You're like, pin a rose on your nose. Like, yeah, we know. You know all about. There's always these people who's like, I've known her forever, and you just want to smack them because they're all like showing off that they've known them for even longer. But for the most part, that it's true of everything. This kid's been a basketball player since he was 4 years old, and suddenly he pops out in the NBA, and you're like, where'd this kid come from? It's like, man, he's been practicing for the last that was his life for 15 years.
Right.
This kid probably, how many times do you think he wanted to give up before he got to that point? Because nobody noticed, or nobody whatever.
Right.
Basketball is probably not a great example, because he was probably playing all along the way and probably winning games for his team and stuff.
Yeah, but nobody saw him shooting free throws after school.
Right.
Lifting weights extra.
Yeah.
Going to a lot of these athletes nowadays, they go to these specialists 2 or 3 times a week and work on their skills or whatever.
Yeah.
No one sees that.
Yeah. And, relating a little bit to the stimulus check thing, there have been several times in my business life in particular that I have seen people around me get opportunities to do things that I was dreaming of doing and squandered them. They
Yeah.
were their stimulus. They were their business stimulus checks. Of course, it probably wasn't their dream of something to do. It was
Sure.
mine, and so they didn't do something with it like I would have. And I feel like I would have been able to like just take hold of
Run
it
with
and
it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
just run with it. And so what I'm getting at is that there's stimulus checks everywhere. It's not
Right.
just the
It's not
one.
just money from the government.
Right. It's not just money in your bank account right now. You get business opportunities. You get
It's not always easy to recognize, though.
no, it's
That
not.
those are. I mean, with the stimulus check from the government, I mean,
Sometimes, baby,
it's
you
a
got to make your
number.
own stimulus check sometimes, you know what I'm
It's a
saying?
number. You see the number. It's going
Yeah.
in. It's exciting. They've announced it on
And by the
TV
way,
a
we did
hundred times
nothing
over.
to work for it. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
you just
We
survived.
didn't need
You
we didn't
survived the
need
COVID.
we didn't need the discipline to get that reward,
Sure.
but now we have to have the discipline to on what to do with it to
Right.
make it work for us. The
Right.
stimulus check is the opportunity for a lot of people to expand in a lot of different ways and do a lot of things. And so I just think that I just think you have to look at it that way. Like look at it as more than just a number, a dollar amount.
Right.
Because everybody's so focused on what can I buy with this amount of
Right.
money? And I more look at it as what opportunities can I seize in how many different ways? Like, what can this do? If it's just going to sit in the bank account, we got a growing savings account
Sure.
so that then we can do something else with it. Or I know that next year, if we put it in this account, then we can earn a little extra money on it so we can do this other thing. Like, it is a, it is, it's a helpful method to get to other places.
Yeah.
And so start to look at your life, not just with this stimulus check, but what are other, little opportunities or stimulus checks that you have in other places in your life that you can capitalize on or seize the opportunity and expand and mold and make into something? I just think it's important to think about,
Yeah.
talk amongst yourselves about.
Something that just popped in my head. It's sort of switching directions, but not really. In that finance class, in one of the later ones, we talk about um spending habits,
Yes.
and I always I always start the lesson with something like this. If you were walking down the hall and you found $1 on the floor, would you put it in the snack machine later that
Oh,
day?
that's a tough one for high school kids. I would put
Yeah.
that
Oh,
back.
I know.
What would you do with it?
So I like show of hands if you would still have that dollar by the end of the day. Most of them would not. There's always like two or three kids like, oh yeah, I'd save it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, but look, you're a high school kid. Like that's tough. There's the candy or the whatever. There's a soda, and you just got this free dollar that you didn't have earlier. I said, but hopefully as you get older, you won't be such an impulsive spender.
Mm-hmm.
To when you find $1 or $5 or $10 or $100 or $1,000, you'll hold on to it until you like need like there's something that dollar can really do something for you
Yeah.
other than just
But that's how a lot of people look at it is I didn't have this dollar before.
right.
And so
I'm gonna treat myself to a candy bar.
yeah, I didn't have it before. So what's my life if I didn't have it again, right? My
Right.
life would be the same. And what I'm saying is that the way that I look at money is different than that. I look at this as this dollar just gave me the opportunity to do something that I couldn't do
Right.
yesterday, you know? Um, so I would have saved the dollar.
Well, I
I would
tell
have
them
personally saved the
I
dollar.
would probably save the dollar too, but I guess this is the way I think. I would have saved the dollar not for the main reason I think I would have saved the dollar is because I know that with $1 I can only buy so many things, but with $2 I can buy a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can just save it till I get another dollar, I can do so much more than just get that candy bar.
Right.
And multiply that by 100,000 or a million or whatever.
It's the
And what you can do with, in our case, $8,400. That's a lot of money, but what can I do with $84,000? I can do a lot
mm-hmm.
more. I have to
Mm-hmm.
be disciplined to get to that number, but I mean, if the 84 covers what I need, like if you're starving because you forgot your lunch or you didn't eat breakfast that day and you find that dollar, then yeah, go ahead and spend it. Get yourself a snack. You're
Sure.
really hungry.
Sure.
But like you just ate lunch, you have your lunch, depending on what time of the day it is, and you find this dollar, well now you're just doing it just to do it almost, like
Sure.
you don't need
Yeah.
to spend it there.
I like that perspective about, because again, back to it, it's just a number.
Right.
I think you'll see these numbers. Like, I'm glad that we have this stimulus check. You know, people don't like to talk about finances. They don't like to talk about money and numbers, and it's uncomfortable. I like to talk about numbers a lot, and I'm glad that this stimulus check thing is blanket enough across the board to where
it's a flat rate.
It's a flat rate. Everybody could look up how much we got. Of course, that does indicate that we're not making enough, because there is a certain threshold that when you make a certain amount of money, then you're not getting a stimulus check.
Yep.
No,
See,
you don't
I
get
didn't
one
even
at
know
all.
about that. Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't get one at all.
Wow.
And so
we really are not that wealthy.
You guys know that you guys can look up how much that is. I don't even know what the number is, but we're not making
not even on our radar though.
No, but we got the stimulus check. We didn't get skipped over because we make too much money. So so that tells you that. But I do like that it's a flat rate that everyone, if you know someone got a stimulus check, you can look at them and go, okay, it's 2 adults and 2 children.
Right.
I know they got X number of dollars. Sure. And then we can start talking.
And then if they didn't get a stimulus check, you're like, okay, I know you make over X number of dollars.
Right. I mean, it's all this like, you know, silent calculations that are going on in people's heads. But what I like about the stimulus check is if you got one, you very easily can figure out who got what.
Right.
And you know, I just always think it's interesting to watch people and see what they do, and see how many people really ask questions about what should I do with this, and really consider it, like thoughtfully and prayerfully consider what they should do with. Now, we haven't even talked about charity and of things, like maybe you should be giving some of this stuff to charity or to your church or, you know, whatever. To each
that's their own.
To each their own. We're not even having that discussion, but the idea that you are using this money, it's not a matter of I didn't have it yesterday and I'm not going to have it tomorrow, so let's just do something with it.
Right.
Let's just
go buy a candy bar, an $8,400 candy bar.
I think there's going to be a lot of new cars driving around. That's what I think is going to happen.
That's what happened last time. I remember you making that observation.
What are those $400 stimulus check? I mean, they were smaller.
Yeah, but it's enough for people to make a down payment.
That's right.
On a car.
No, but a lot of those were used cars. They're going to be new this time.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very different situation this time, I think. But there's plenty of people who needed a car. And
sure.
Now you would argue that who needs a car, whatever. I'm not having that argument today.
I know. Yeah. Again, that gets back to your priorities. Maybe a car is like number 1 on your priority list because you need it to get to work. You're actually losing money because you're waiting for a bus and you're late to work or whatever.
Right. I don't think I'm here to have the discussion about what's a need and what's a want, because I think every person is different. All I'm asking for everyone to do what I'm saying we've done it in several different ways, but we're still working through it. We have that amount of money. We've put it in a bank account, a savings account, and we will decide how we're going to proceed from here, because I think that's the only way to do it. I just think making this blanket, you know, I'm watching social media, guys. I'm not super active on my personal page, but I'm super active on my business page. And so I'm going through constantly people's feeds and I'm watching what people are going to do with their quote unquote stimmy checks. They're, you know, and it's all cute and jokes, but I mean, I know a lot of it's serious. I mean, people are going to be out buying new wardrobes for their kids or, again, I shouldn't even say that because that's probably something some people need to do. So priorities be what they are.
Again,
so
you might not.
I'm not going to talk about I'm not going to talk about what those things are. But the point being that it all feels a little flippant, and I think that we're being given an opportunity. So just look at it as an opportunity, if possible.
I agree.
So I think that's it. That's all we have today. We wanted to talk about those stimulus checks. What are you guys going to be using your stimulus checks for? Now that we've had this conversation, maybe I want to hear what you're going to use it for, and now what you think you might change to use it for.
Maybe.
Now that we've had this conversation. Also, if you guys get some time, please give us 5 stars on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. It means a ton, and it will get us even more viewers and listeners. You guys can reach us on social media, Facebook at Building Aaronsburg. You can reach us on Instagram at Building Aaronsburg. And if you have any stories or questions or comments, you can email us at buildingaaronsburg@gmail.com. Until next time, bye y'all.
Bye y'all.